Here's Kenny Dillingham earlier this week talking about something that, look, it's facing ASU, it's facing Georgia, it's facing Boise State, it's facing Oregon right now. You have in all these matchups one team that hasn't played in forever against the team that just played about a week and a half ago. Here's Kenny on that.
It's definitely a challenge, especially because we were playing our best football the last 4 weeks of the season. I mean, the last 4 weeks of our season, other than 2 second halves of 2 games, we really just absolutely, dominated the end of the season, in my opinion, other than those halves where we kind of slipped. And to have a 3.5 week break is definitely challenging for us, not just from a rhythm perspective, but a conditioning level perspective. And then even for our vets, we haven't played in the fourth quarter with our starters, and it's going to be roughly 6 weeks when we kick off because they didn't the last 2 weeks of the season. And that's going to be, that combination is challenging. And but this team's overcome so much adversity this year. They kind of thrive off of overcoming challenges and playing teams on short weeks when they have bye weeks, and having to go on the road off of a team's bye week to one of the best teams in the conference, and we don't have a bye week. Like we've faced so many difficult challenges like that this year. This is just another one of them.
It's been a long time since we've seen this team play football, and I'm glad that he pointed out the idea of the starters not getting a lot of run, for better, I should mention, the last couple of games. If you consider a 49-7 win over Arizona, never going to forget that one, and if you consider a 45-19 win over Iowa State, where essentially they sat out the entire fourth quarter because it was done by then. It's a lot of time that they've not played football like head-to-head in a competitive circumstance. I'm sure they try the best they can in practice, but you don't want to injure your teammates in practice. In a situation like this, there's the benefit, but there's also the I'm super-duper worried because Texas is coming off of a game that they just played on Saturday.
Yeah.
ASU hasn't played since December 7th in a competitive manner. That worries me.
Yeah, this is the downside to having 4 teams get a bye week, and it goes both ways. I mean, it goes both ways in all 4 games. I mean, it is a different playing field for better or for worse. You could make the argument for ASU, hey, you guys are rested. Like Texas is beat up from playing Clemson in theory. I don't know that they are. Clemson didn't really beat them up, but I mean, in any of these 4 games, you could say the team with the break has the advantage or the disadvantage. So I think the negative to having, bye weeks in the tournament is just that you get to this point, it's not an even playing field for better or for worse. And now it's just what you make of it. It's not everybody is starting after a 2-week break. Let's go. Everybody's starting a race at the same time. It's not that. So you have to navigate it. I mean, ultimately it's an advantage because you advanced past the first round without playing.
I was going to say, I want to emphasize, I'm grateful for the bye for this team. That's a huge accomplishment and it's well deserved. My worry is just how much of that part of the conversation is going to come into play. Like, consider Major League Baseball, for example. How much complaining was there about these number 1 seeds and number 2 seeds for at least the first couple of years?
There wasn't any this year when all the big market teams won. No. But when the big market teams were losing, it was like, we got to change something.
What the heck is happening?
Yeah.
The disadvantage for ASU in that conversation is what you just said. They're not a big market team. The conversation would be around Georgia, or they didn't have enough time, or if never mind, I'm not going to mention the other team. The point being is that we're grateful for the bye, but we don't want to have the rest conversation be a part of the conversation. You want your mic
to stay on for the rest of the show?
No, I didn't want to say it.
But this all comes down to coaching. I have full confidence in Dan Lanning that it doesn't matter if they didn't play this week, that he would have the team in the right direction, the mind's right. I mean, I think it all comes down to coaching, which I think Kenny Dillingham can do.
It does come down to coaching. I mean, that's ultimately what this is. Are you gonna view it as an advantage behind closed doors? Or are you gonna take advantage of it? There are advantages here for ASU. Now, again, in this situation, it's not like Texas really got tested or really had to grind things out against Clemson. So now that they're here, now that all the favorites won in the first round, it doesn't seem like a disadvantage to those teams because they didn't really get tested in the first round and all the favorites won. But there are advantages here for ASU. Now, keep coming back to this. ASU coming out of the start of the season was really good. ASU coming out of their first bye week was really good. ASU coming out of their second bye week was really good. ASU starting most games this season was really good. They don't seem to have a hard time starting from zero. But I do think I really think we're going to know who's going to win this game by the end of the first quarter, honestly.
I think that was something that Kellen and I talked about last night on our Arizona Sports at Night show was whoever's going to start faster is going to have the advantage in this one, because Texas is a team that he pointed out the stat. They averaged just about 21 points in the first half of games in the last 4.
Yeah.
And we've seen how fast of a start ASU can get out to. And the biggest worry about them beyond that is, all right, well, do you have that same intensity for the second half when they start to run their way back? I agree with you that it's going to be about whoever gets out and running first, because these are both teams that are very successful at specifically that. My hope is that ASU can find a way to be able to keep their run game established, because I think that's what's going to set the tone for this entire day is, can they get Cam Scatterbo moving on the ground or even in the pass, just like as a secondary option out there. If they can get that moving, then I actually trust this rush defense more than most.
Yeah.
It's a highly ranked rush defense. Like I think it's in the top 30 in the entire FBS.
I trust ASU's defense.
Certainly not going to be giving up 265 combined yards on 29 carries.
It better not. Otherwise, I won't be trusting ASU's defense. That would be bad. No, it's just, I don't think, look, Texas is 13.5-point favorites. I think that's high, but I understand why they're favored. But I don't think they have an answer for Cam Scatterbo. Now, that might not swing the game, except if Texas is up early, if Texas takes advantage of the fact that ASU doesn't have Shamari Simmons in the first half, if Texas takes advantage of the fact that ASU could be rusty coming out of the gate, if Texas just takes advantage of the fact that they have a good offense and they build like a 2-score lead on ASU in the first half, that's the only way you're going to stop Cam Scatterbo, is if ASU can't go to him as much. And
I just feel like they would still go to him, though. In some facet.
I think, and that it goes back to Aaron's point on the coaching. Kenny Dillingham and his coaching staff, they are smart enough to not just abandon the run and let, if you get into the second half and you're down 3 scores, then you have to open things up, obviously. But they're going to stick with what got them here as long as they can. They don't overcomplicate things for themselves. And that's why they're 11-2 and in the final 8 teams.
If they're gutsy enough to call a 4th and 1 that turns into a 63-yard pass play when they're on their own, 25, then I think that we should be expecting the best out of this group.
The reaction from the press box at that game, like in real time as that was happening, you had people that cover ASU all season that were just like, yeah, this checks. This is about right. This seems like something they would do. You had the people that covered Iowa State all season that were like, what is wrong with this team? Are they insane? And then you had like the neutral national people that are like, who's playing? So you had that sort of mix as the game was going, and that particular play where it was like, okay, it's 4th and 1. You're going to go for it inside your own 35 in the first quarter of the Big 12 championship. And you're going to throw.
You won the game.
It
literally won the game. By the way, did you know that Steve Sarkisian and Kenny Dillingham, not necessarily in a head-to-head, but they've faced each other once before?
Like in a cage match? Or
No, in a football game.
Oh.
When Steve Sarkisian was the OC at Alabama in 2019 and Kenny was the OC at Auburn in 2019, Auburn won that edition of the Iron Bowl 48-45. But Auburn, I want to point this out, didn't win because of their offense in that one. Bo Nix was not great. There was nothing really going on with their running game. They won on defense because they had 2 pick sixes off of Mac Jones in that game. Can they produce a similar performance and still win?
Looking back now, 2 pick sixes against Mac Jones doesn't seem like enough.
Thanks for watching Wolf and Luke. Tap to see more and click the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.